Why don't you get a wallet phone case? Welcome.
What the fuck's wrong with us?
What do you mean?
No, we're just stunned mullets at the moment.
No, I'm good.
I am hot. Fucking yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to City Art. I'm Bryn. This is Matt, and this week we were doing Viagra Boys. Welfare Jazz.
That's the band. Viagra Boys is the band.
Is the band. That is the band. That's the boys.
And the album was Welfare Jazz.
Which is
the funniest title.
Welfare Jazz is the funniest title.
I reckon so. It's the funniest title.
Why do you think that?
Because it just says so much in the title. Well, like Welfare Jazz, you
just can't live off it.
No, and it hints at what chaos is under the surface.
Oh, Matt reading deep into the title. So these boys are from Sweden.
Yeah. And the lead singer is... All I can remember of what he looks like is he has a tiny little tattoo across his forehead.
Yeah, LOS.
Yeah. I don't know.
He's fully covered in tattoos, as you can tell. He also does tattooing on the side.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
I think he's half Irish, half Swedish.
He must have some sort of affiliation to the UK because the music style, I feel, is just straight out of their cauldron.
American.
You said Irish. Oh, really? American?
So he's I don't know. I keep thinking he's got the name Murphy. So half Swedish, half American.
Okay. Well, that shoots my point in the foot, so I'm pretty glad I have that included in the podcast.
This is their second album.
Yep.
How'd you go with the first run through?
The first run through was fun. It was a strange first listen through because the first track is so boppy and just like so full of attitude. And then the second normal tracks, I'm going to skip over like the 30-second interlude type tracks.
Yeah, the narrative songs.
Yeah. So the next track after that is like this rollicking... it was full of this same sort of off-key energy, and the charisma that the lead singer has is just sort of feels like you want to go on this particular ride. And then you get towards the middle of the album and it sort of lulls for a bit. And you can see the ideas there and you're sort of like floating along with it. And then it sort of builds up, I reckon, in a fun and unexpected way towards the end. So I was kind of just left shaking my head a lot of the time in my first listen through, just trying to see where all the ideas were coming from, and enjoying the ride for what it was. What about you?
It was interesting.
Yeah.
It was very flavoursome as I was going through. It was like this... I was always put off by the saxophone, just making these random little sounds, and once in a while I was like, is there a trumpet? But it's not. It's still the saxophone just making these little...
They certainly embody the post-punk element.
Yeah, the post-punk. I was more like underground rock.
So
punk.
The way that you would probably try to define post-punk would be it becomes less about the song structure, more about the quality and the timbre and the cadence of the sounds, which is why it feels a lot more chaotic. The weird sounding saxophones or horn sections not being perfect is the point.
It's the whole point.
It's the texture of the sound, less so about what particularly they're playing. And in some regards, song structure sort of goes out the window a little bit because of it. And that's sort of like that's kind of what post-punk is, or at least my understanding of it.
Which is very much there is not a lot of structure where you be halfway through a song and then it'd just be a saxophone for like 5 seconds and then a piano for 5 seconds and then the drums, and you just be like, they're all just taking their turns.
Or even
at the front. Or
even in the more structured points, in the background of the music, you can hear that there is just chaotic sounds.
Yeah.
It's just... Yeah, it's like they've thrown a bunch of jazz instruments through a dishwasher, right?
Like girls and boys, where it's just like the saxes in the background. It's like it's not making a lot of sound, but it's still back there, just like throwing off keys.
Yeah. So, was your first listen better than your seventh listen?
No, I've enjoyed this album every time I listen to it.
Found something new to listen to each time.
Yeah, there's something always popped up. Something was, I didn't catch that the first time, or I didn't catch it the seventh time. I'm still like, fucking hell. So how am I supposed to remember all these little things that are happening throughout this album? Like, there's just for a short album, there's still a lot going on.
Yeah, it's not even that short. Like, I actually think they managed to...
40 minutes.
Yeah, it feels like the right length in time, especially given how much they do put into it.
How much is going on, yeah. I don't think you could take another 10, 20 minutes of it.
Oh, no. So, like, for me, I think as my listens went on, I found that there became pretty evident tracks that I was really, really looking forward to finishing and getting to the tracks that I really, really quite liked. So I found by my seventh listen, there were like 4 tracks that I really wanted to listen to, and the rest take them or leave them, with a couple that I really was happy never to listen to again afterwards. But I think that comes with the experimentation that this style presents. So I still was happy with it overall. I still enjoyed going on that weird trip every single time you press play at the head of the album.
Yeah. The way it starts and the way it finishes, just completely opposite ends.
Do you find this to be a concept album? Because I think there's a fairly coherent narrative through the entire album.
I think there is too.
I think clearly there are these consistent themes through the album. It's about a dude who thinks he's top shit, might like a few drinks, a few shots.
Yep, a few nose beers.
Maybe. Has a chick who might want to straighten him up, doesn't want to listen to her. He reaches the depths of despair and climbs back out and lives happily ever after, or at least happily ever after in accordance with how Viagra boys see that. yeah,
the final track being the
In Spite of
Us All is a bit of a love track of fallen people or fallen classes, as people would call.
It's a
rough love between two people that have probably had a rough life.
Yeah, I sort of see it as like accepting some element of simplicity. It's almost pleasant in how awkward it is and how sick. Like, when I say sickening, I mean sickening in the sense that it's cliched, a lot of the stuff that they're saying in amongst the humorous things that they say in that particular track. So, I mean, like, to give you a flavour for it, you know, he hasn't been laid in a month of Sundays. I caught him once and he was sniffing my undies.
Yeah.
But mixed in with that is like it feels really simple what these lives have sort of turned into, and there's a pleasantness to it. I actually really quite like it as an ending track. I think the album couldn't have ended any other way.
Like into a slightly country western song.
It's so campy so as to be enjoyable, and the lyrics are humorous, and I think it ties off what I perceive the narrative to be. So, like, yeah, I thought that was a great closer, and yeah, I think it ends up having a pretty coherent narrative. The things that I don't understand, why the fuck this band has an obsession with A, dogs, and B, shrimps.
I don't. Yeah, I was like shrimps.
Man, what did you do the first time you heard girls and boys?
Sorry. Girls and boys. I was listening. I was like, okay, is he saying the same things, same lines after every time he says boys, girls, and then halfway through it he hears
dogs.
The only friends I have, shrimp. I was like, what the fuck? It's like he ran out of lyrics.
It's just absurd. It's what someone would do if they were trying to sing underwater, right? Like, that's as far as I get with that.
Yeah, that's what I get too.
And then, like, when I started digging around, apparently, like, they call their session music Shrimp Sessions, or at least they have an EP or some other music thing that they've released where it was called Shrimp Sessions. So, like, I think this is like an ongoing thing that they do.
Yeah,
something of a gag, but I genuinely cacked myself when I heard it the first time, because it just hits you out of left field. You don't even know it's coming. Tony pissed herself too the first time.
So did Cass. She's just like, what?
Oh, yeah. So I think let's talk about the best parts of the album.
Best parts of the best songs?
Yeah. No, even best parts? Best songs are a good start, but are there anything else that you friggin' liked about the album?
Besides that the saxophone was used in so many different ways and variants was entertaining for me.
Yeah. Like, what about what tracks did you like?
I reckon Creatures was good.
Yep.
I like Creatures. I thought it was more of the creative songs, the warp in the background. I got a bit of an Enter Shikari loop in the middle. And it's like, I forget what part, like in Tina, where it's like Tina.
Yeah.
Just repeating on the loops. Dropping in and what was it? Drop in notes give the sensation of like this slight descending into the bottom. So when it comes to like the bass, it would like start just that slightly bit.
Is this in Creatures?
Yeah, in Creatures in height, and then they would just slowly drop down in notes as if it was like as they're falling into the bottom, and they're talking about the creatures. And then the piano, if I was to imagine this song, they're at the bottom. This is like his low point in his life. And then if you were to be at the bottom of the ocean, you would find these sort of alien-like creatures that sort of glow
dealing drugs.
Yeah, dealing drugs, lighting up the light. Yeah. And then that's sort of the piano coming in, like bringing this little height and little light up to it. And then, you know, you follow into songs afterwards, like I Feel Alive, where he goes, I haven't been high in 5 days, and he's going along how good I am. I'm not trying to brag, but I kind of am. Yeah. And then towards the end of the song, it's like, I haven't been high in 3 hours. I feel alive.
Yeah.
All of them's like, this is just getting worse.
It does feel like the turning point song of the album, because I feel like that particular song, in terms of the narrative, it's the point where the character acknowledges he has a problem. I feel I do enjoy the fact that he clearly has a relapse in the song where it's meant to be his redemption arc. I think one of the good things that this band does is represent what their character in the song is experiencing with non-traditional methods. So at the back end of that song, usually when you record music, you have layered tracks. So if I was the lead singer, I would sing, and then I would sing again, and I might even sing a third time. And you layer those vocals onto one audio line, so that when you hear it back, the sound is really full and textured. But what they end up doing on that particular track towards the end is they made them intentionally discordant towards the end. So his layered vocals were not layered, they were actually at odds with each other, and I kind of felt like that was something of a brain disintegration on the back of maybe a relapse. So I quite like that, and they have those non-traditional flavors through the album.
I was just like, it's getting a bit distorted towards the end of that song.
Yeah, there's literally a line where you look up the lyrics and it's just question mark, because it becomes so discordant. I'll show you afterwards. I had a good old chuckle. I'm like, what the hell is he even saying?
It wasn't on my lyrics through iTunes.
Yeah, all good.
Well, that's good. That's good to know that out there, there's people are having jokes like, I can't figure out what the fuck this is. What about Six Shooter was probably up there with my favorite, even though it's got none of the words, no lyrics, but I imagine it's more like a chase scene.
Yeah. It's sort of like a moment in time where the character realizes that shit's gotten too real. It's like it's the moment.
Yep.
That's the impression I get. Yeah, just by the way, for those of you who just hear the aircon going on, it's fucking hot today.
It is sweaty.
I'm doing my best not to change the color of my shirt,
And I'm wearing a singlet because it's that hot.
Any low points?
Low points?
Or criticisms?
Into the Sun, I wasn't really that much of a fan. It was a bit of a daydream haze throughout it.
Any general criticisms as well, or
for the whole thing?
Yeah.
No. I thought I kind of enjoyed how it turned into a bit of a country at the end. Like to the country, it just sort of flipped from this underground post-punk Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds sort of feel, and then it just flowed into a Johnny Cash. Yeah,
Johnny
Cash.
What's that? To the Country feels like the start of a Western epic.
It really did start feeling like that, and then when it rolled into what I would call
post-country is literally what it would be, right?
Post-country, I guess so. Yeah, and then ending on the final song, feeling like it really does. He projects that low, raspy voice of I'm just running out of energy. I'm running out of vocal to sing.
So you get a defeatist.
I get defeated towards the end, even though it's like there's obviously starting a new life. They're moving to the country so they don't get stuck in the hustle bustle of the city and keep doing drugs.
I mean, I thought the narrative was a little bit more textured than that it's like a compromise between like living the high life versus living plain and sensibly. Like you can't have all the good and all the bad. You got to choose which good and bad you prefer, and that's sort of what I got from the arc, was that it wasn't him being defeated at the end. It was him
making the choice
of
to live a simpler life
that doesn't kill him.
Yes. Yeah. And if I was to explain the last track, I would say it's more of a Johnny Cash and June Castor. It's the girl that Johnny Cash leaves his wife for.
Who cares?
Played by Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, movies? No.
But yeah,
we're not reviewing movies here. Let's move on.
It was kind of cool that it just ended in a completely different way to the start of it. And yeah, the narrative is, as you have said, is a falling, crashing, hitting rock bottom,
and maybe bouncing,
and maybe what?
And maybe bouncing back depending on your perspective.
Well, I think following the same path he may have been taken before, and then finally realizing it's time to get out of this fucking city.
Yep. For me, in terms of the good tracks, Ain't Nice, there's a banger off the start.
Straight
that certainly
off,
hooks you in. Toad has that energy, is really nice and driving. I thought the interlude tracks were interesting and fun.
Yeah.
I really quite liked Girls and Boys just for the absurdity of the shrimp line, if nothing else. I liked Secret Canine Agent because what the fuck is that song?
I reckon that's a sniffer dog.
I'm certain it's a sniffer dog.
And that's why it goes into I Feel Alive.
Yeah.
And then why he's 5 days sober, because he got fucking caught.
But it is absurdist, right?
Oh, yes.
And I think that's the best way to describe that song. It's 2 minutes of just him talking about dogs sniffing him out. I quite like it. I think that's a really good song. For me, though, I think most of the other tracks are interesting on the first few listens, but to me, they sort of lose a bit of gusto. I think the post-punk songs that work are the up-tempo ones.
Yep.
The ones that are sort of more jaunty and
just slow
burning.
Drum. Yep.
Are probably a little bit laboured in the way that they're sort of put out. I don't know. It can be a little bit much. Whereas I really like a rollicking bass line and the drums that sort of come with those more upbeat tracks. So I think whilst contextually for the album it works, they're not songs I'll probably ever go back and listen to again. But, I mean, I'd happily listen to Secret Canine Agent.
Yeah?
Yeah. And, I wouldn't listen to In Spite of Ourselves again, but I actually like it as a closer to the album. So I'm a little bit torn. I think those tracks they're interesting without being ones that I'd go back and listen to again. I think, good for the album is about,
not in a playlist.
Not in a playlist, no. I think by and large, the experimentation on the album is varied, clever, and plays into this desperate narrative. I think the lead singer is deeply charismatic. He's the sort of bloke that you could imagine leading a big band. He seems to have an incredible vocal range.
Yeah.
Right? For someone who's in a post-punk welfare jazz band, right? He has a very, very...
He works it with the songs very well.
Oh, incredibly well. Very, very happy to just be totally experimental with what he does. I think the sound work is really, really good along the album. I think, it's worth a listen for that alone.
Yeah. Final thoughts?
Worth a listen. It's absolutely worth a listen. I think the front end and the back end of the albums are the highlights. I really, really... I know you like Six Shooter, but it's 5 minutes of literally the same fucking riff. So, I just can't deal with it. I think the little interludes in between are cute and fun, and they don't outstay their welcome. They have lines like, he's not best in show because it's his show. Just dumb shit like that I think is really quite fun. And I think one of the random highlights is literally the intro part to Toad, where he's just like, that breakfast you cooked me the other morning, baby, it was like eating from the big diner up in the sky. But, you're talking about having some kids and settling down. Well, baby, I got something to sell you. You're sitting down? Good. Well, it goes like this. I don't need no woman. It's just absurdly charismatic and full of character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to take away from this album is just how full of character it is. I think that's its best selling point. That and the fact that it's drum and bass rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throughout, it kills.
What about you? Anything else? Or
I think for a punk, I haven't heard a post-punk in a long time, and this was fun to listen to this once again.
Absolutely.
Bringing in the saxophone and the piano, and then they just somehow with their experimental working of it, and I don't know how proficient they are in these instruments, but they seem to just bring him in and change the notes and just give it a extra spin of flavor on top of it.
Happy days.
Yeah, real good. I think it's at least worth one listen from everyone. And
Absolutely.
very much to enjoy the semi-narratives throughout the whole album.
Absolutely.
And enjoy Six Shooter, even though it is almost 5 minutes of a car chase. But it's enough to keep you going.
No, it's not. Care to give it a score?
No, I'm going to guess yours.
Far away.
6.5.
Nah, I liked it better than that. I thought it was a 7 out of 10. I really did like the album. Even though there were tracks that I won't listen to again, they were interesting enough to warrant merit. I think the narrative was cohesive despite the fact that it's totally chaotic, the whole thing. And shrimps.
Shrimps.
Half a point for the shrimps. And dogs, absolutely.
Dogs. Wait, next week?
Yeah. What album are we going to do?
Your choice.
I've been umming and ahhing between a bunch of different albums, but we've already listened to a post-punk album this week. I'm not going to do another one. So we're going to listen to OK Human by Weezer. I know this is disappointing news to hear. Just deal with it.
I'll have to.
You can give your honest opinion. If it's shit, you can tear it apart next week.
Yes,
I promise you that. I'll allow you to have 20 minutes of unadulterated time. You can just spit vicious on it.
Fuck. I don't think I have a vocabulary big enough to do that.
Maybe you can write really extensive notes, and maybe we just get you up in front of a podium and you can clap your notes together.
Give me a president's podium?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is my opinion of OK Human. And then you can lead into the most eloquent diatribe I've ever heard.
I feel a Radiohead's fucking album coming on.
Oh, you're so lucky I didn't choose Kid A.
You wouldn't do that.
Wouldn't I?
No, we've already done one.
Yeah, but you realise that if Radiohead go to release a new album, we're going to have to, get savvy.
Get savvy, super savvy.
Absolutely, yeah. Anyway, that's the end of the review, right?
Yeah, we're done.
All right. We've been CDR. I was Matt. He's Bryn. We're listening to OK Human.
He was Matt.
I still am.
Yes.
Go listen to Viagra Boys. They're better than I thought they were going to be.
Fucking oath.
All right.
Much better. Later.
Bye. Dogs. The only real friend that I got.